So we are at the end, almost the end, the home stretch here of day 2. I have to say a big thank you to the KPMG team for hosting us. This has truly been an interactive and innovative summit. Have had tremendous conversations both in the room and out of the room, so thank you. My name is Scott Lawrence, and I have the privilege of leading our product organization for Verizon Business. And today, I want to talk about the accelerating AI arms race through 3 lenses: through the lens of models, talent, and AI infrastructure. But I also want to dive into how AI at the edge is creating a strategic power shift. So let's jump right into it. So we heard this morning when Peter talked that AI is not new, right? We've been iterating on this for some 69 years. At Verizon, we've used AI for well over a decade to control and manage our global networks as well. However, what has changed is the accelerated adoption by enterprise businesses of AI, specifically Gen AI. If you look at today, over 78% of organizations that have 500 million or more in annual revenue say they use AI for at least one business function. That is up significantly from 55% just 2 years ago. Now, these days, it's hard to think that anybody isn't using AI, or at least thinking about how to deploy AI into their business. Indeed, AI adoption is growing materially faster than any internet comparables that we can find. Just looking at ChatGPT alone, it reached over 100 million monthly users in less than 2 months. If you look at some of the other comparables that we use every day, it took years to achieve that. Therefore, it's no wonder that people talk about AI in terms of an arms race. And we're starting to see this show up at the C-level in quarterly analyst reviews, where C-level executives are talking about how they're integrating AI into their strategy, not only for their business, but to change the outcomes for their customers as well. But here's the thing to think about. AI is not a single race with a single winner. There are multiple races underway with multiple winners. And as a business, you're only going to win if you know what race you're running and you have the right assets. So let's break down some of the AI races that we're seeing. The first one is around the race for the models, which many of us in this room are not individually running this race, but it's very relevant to businesses that they choose the right one, right? Whether it's OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Gemini, Grok, Perplexity, the race for the best model is on. Now, we know that leading edge models are designed to accommodate 1 trillion parameters with 1 petabyte of storage. That is reaching biological scale in terms of processing. And we know that there will be, and there already are, some winners in this race, because these models are going to become as ubiquitous as Google search is. But while many of us in this room may not be running this race directly, it's critically important for us to really understand what these models are doing. Because enterprise businesses on average are using 2.8 models today as they experiment with different applications, capabilities, and more. The next model, which we've really talked about, or the next race that we talked about, was the race for talent, right? We've heard it throughout many of the conversations today. This is a race that's relevant to every single one of us in the room here. We've all seen the poaching headlines taking place, the need for talent to drive AI projects, and also the lacking supply in the market. Again, you may be thinking as a business that you're not building AI solutions or you're not building the models, so how is this relevant, or I'm comfortable in my talent that I have. But here's a perspective that I want to offer to you when you think about your talent. Sam Altman recently gave an interview a few months ago where he pointed out the adoption of Gen AI in our daily lives can really be segmented in terms of age groups. And he compared it to the use of the smartphone or the iPhone. He said older generations took much longer to figure out the basic functionalities of the smartphone, whereas younger generations just intuitively knew how to operate it. That same philosophy can be applied to how different generations are using and adopting Gen AI technology. For example, older generations are using Gen AI as effectively a Google search replacement, whereas millennials are using it as a life advisor for assistance with decisions, productivity, and self-improvement. But now college grads and Gen Zs, they're actually integrating AI and Gen AI deeper into their lives, almost like an operating system. So while there's a lot of chatter in the market right now about the job opportunity prospect for post-college graduates, I would challenge us, like Peter talked about this morning, where all the innovation is coming from, to not overlook a relevant group of talent that could really transform how they think and use and adopt AI in your businesses. Now, a third race, and this is the race that I'm going to be focused on today, is the race for AI infrastructure. Now, so what do I mean by AI infrastructure? On a broad level, everything. In fact, the last 2 days, a lot of the conversations that we've had have been all around infrastructure and infrastructure to support AI. But those conversations have all been centered around data centers, compute, chipsets, and power. But what has been missing from that conversation and is critically important is the role that the network will play in the distribution of AI workloads at scale. Already today, analyst research firm Omdia predicts 120% CAGR growth between 2023 and 2030 of AI-driven network workloads, network traffic. That's on top of the traditional application workloads our networks are already carrying. But it's not surprising because AI workloads are much larger, sometimes 10 to 100 times larger than traditional workloads. And beyond that demand for sheer bandwidth, the way that we're going to use the network needs to radically change. All right, so I want to talk a little about where we've been and where we're going, right? From two lenses. One, over the last few years, we've talked a lot about building these models, which has really been focused on AI training, teaching to recognize patterns in data. This requires massive compute and data center builds. Still today, intra-cluster data center traffic has doubled every 6 months over the past 2 years. Now the focus is starting to shift towards inferencing. And with that, a recent consultant came out saying 60 to 70% of all AI traffic will shift to real-time inferencing by 2030. And the reasoning done with this inferencing is compute intensive. It requires hundreds to thousands of times more tokens per task than simple one-time inferencing. We heard this morning just what we would need in the US, 32 trillion tokens a day just to process this. An average token takes between 1 to 10 megabytes per second per user. There's 800 to 1 billion active ChatGPT users on a weekly basis. Microsoft alone in first quarter processed over 100 trillion tokens. That is a 5-fold increase up from what they did all of last year. So the other area, as we shift from training to inferencing, is the evolution from Gen AI to agentic AI. So whereas Gen AI is mostly static, producing outputs based on data inputs, in comparison, agentic AI is dynamic. It's constantly processing new information, learning from its environment, acting on goals, and learning from outcomes. Now, both Gen AI and agentic AI will require a very different type of network experience. And it's not just about data centers anymore. It's about operating at the edge. All right, so I want to tell a little bit of a story here. So recently, a family in Texas went on vacation. They had recently installed an AI-enabled security system. And unfortunately, after they left, an incident took place at their property. The AI camera picked up the sound of breaking glass. And instead of processing that data, sending it up to the cloud for it to be analyzed and for some type of action to take place, this AI-enabled camera took action on its own. It detected a threat, it classified it, it issued alert, all on device in real time without having to go out to a centralized system for permission. This single moment with an AI camera taking action without being told wasn't just a fancy parlor trick, it was a signal. We are now entering a new frontier where intelligence doesn't live just on distant servers. It lives where the action is, right on the edge. Because that's the kind of AI that can't afford latency, bandwidth, or privacy risk of centralized thinking. It has to live close to the moment, on the device, in the factory, in that family's home. Edge AI is no longer just a convenience. It's a way for AI to function at scale. Click There we go. All right, one of the other areas that we need to think about of how to actually function at scale leveraging AI is the device ecosystem that we're working with. Now, think of the devices that we have today. Are these going to be the same form factors that we have 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now? Most likely not. Some are saying that the age of the smartphone, the death of the smartphone is already upon us. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg came out talking about that the new devices that are going to be brought to market are going to be AI native and increasingly agentic, acting, deciding, and engaging autonomously. One other way to consider this is just look at the proliferation of IoT devices. By 2034, it's expected that over 41 billion devices will be in place. That's 2 times where we are today. So why is this important for businesses? It's because as you're creating these new AI applications, building it for a form factor that'll be obsolete or for a device ecosystem that isn't there yet is not a way to future-proof your business. But building solutions at the edge is a way to achieve that. This means the edge isn't just a technical layer anymore. It's a business imperative, and that's where you're starting to see that power shift. Now, before I go any further, when I talk a little bit about edge AI, I'm really talking about local computational processing on or near devices. So why does that matter, right? We talked about what's happening today with large language models, primarily in large data centers that are taking place. But as this shifts from training to inferencing, you're going to see distributed compute that's going to propagate across network environments. And to my point about AI native devices, or even just AI in general today, they require autonomous, reliable function, even with limited connectivity. So what are some of the advantages of edge AI? First, latency for autonomy. And I'm not just talking about latency within the network. I'm also talking about compute latency. We used to talk about latency in terms of an engineering challenge. Now it is an actual strategic differentiator. Take that camera. It didn't just respond fast. It responded independently. That's autonomy and that's agency. That same type of motion can be applied to predictive maintenance across healthcare, manufacturing, and logistics. The business advantage is AI doesn't wait for permission. Another topic that's come up through many of the sessions that we had today was around data sovereignty and what we're seeing on a global basis. Data sovereignty, privacy, and security are also a key reason why companies are looking at edge solutions. Centralized models pull data inward, but these companies' crown jewels are their data. Organizations want to act without exporting all of their data. And edge AI enables that local intelligence, faster and cheaper in many instances, but critical for privacy, regulation, and resiliency. And then we get into cost effectiveness and traffic management of that distributed compute. But finally, and one of the most important areas for service providers like us is changing our networks to be contextual intelligence. Telcos traditionally delivered raw bandwidth, but that's not needed. What's needed is contextually aware infrastructure. Not just moving bits and bytes, but understanding the meaning of those bits and bytes, where and when they matter. And that's where telecom truly has an edge. So I mentioned, telecom having an edge, but I also mentioned earlier the overlooked role that the network plays, right? And here's where this all comes together. Because edge AI will be a foundational element in activating and scaling the AI economy, especially as models shift from training to inferencing and new device ecosystems emerge. This is where we have to look at how our networks are constructed and the role in which we need to change as network providers. Now at Verizon, we build the edge. We build the infrastructure that this rides on. And we've launched our AI Connect strategy, which is a multifaceted, secure environment that allows us to activate that edge using and reimagining critical assets that we have at play. Whether it's our data center for additional space, power, and cooling, or our fiber assets around our long haul, metro fiber, into our mobile edge compute infrastructure that we've developed, all tied into our macro network. We have the ability to meet the demand of the market today while we build for the future. And while we're building for the future, that includes developing programmable, scalable, flexible network infrastructure, effectively cloudifying the telecom network environment, leveraging APIs and other tools. And what is this going to allow us to do? It's going to allow us to drive outcomes for our customers and our business customers to achieve real-time AI output, autonomous system orchestration, and high-trust, secure environments that enable their services when and where they need it. So what are a few use cases that we see that edge AI will be applicable to? The first one is autonomous vehicles. So AI enables real-time decision-making for autonomous driving, processing cameras and sensor data locally. For example, edge computing enables ultra-low latency communications between trucks and a convoy, optimizing fuel and reducing congestion. Another area is industrialized automation, predictive maintenance and management of equipment, optimizing equipment performance and reducing downtime, enabling cameras and sensors on the factory floor to pick up those subtle defects in the production line to improve productivity and reduce waste. Just last night, we were talking about the role that edge AI can play in healthcare to assist with real-time early detection of health issues and personalized treatment, done in a HIPAA-compliant way. Or finally, as even we talked on the previous one, whether it's natural disasters, and we just saw yesterday with the tsunami warning, the ability to leverage edge AI to process video feeds locally and identifying relevant events where it happens in an environment that may have communication challenges is critically important for understanding what has happened and taking action. So for those businesses that are already on the journey, or for businesses that are thinking about starting the journey, where do you begin? Well, you begin by radically changing your thinking. And it starts with changing the types of questions that we need to ask. Not where's the data, but where is the decision being made? Not how much latency can we tolerate, but how much autonomy can we empower? Not what products are we selling, but what real-time problems are we enabling others to solve? And finally, not what's our AI strategy, but are we ready for AI to flood our legacy enterprise network infrastructure? Now, as business leaders, you do have the opportunity to win, and it's far beyond just improving productivity or reducing costs. You have the opportunity to redefine this in the new AI world. Because one thing I know for certain is this technology adoption and advancement is not going to slow down. So in the coming years, we will not just build AI products. We will build AI environments and connect new AI ecosystems where infrastructure acts with purpose. Ports that self-optimize based on ship arrivals. Agricultural systems that coordinate water usage based on microclimate and predictive crop goals. Traffics that adjust in real time, not because someone told it to, but because the edge understood that it needed to happen. This is intelligence that doesn't wait. It acts, it adapts, it learns. And it all lives close to the problem. It all lives near the edge, running on networks like ours. Because the edge is not just a place. It is a power shift. And that power shift is happening today. So for business leaders, I would ask, are you prepared for that power shift? Thank you.